Hey guys, I'm joined by Juan Nieves and Bill Schroeder. And guys, as we're waiting for baseball to get started here, Fox Sports Wisconsin is airing some of the Brewers classic games. And you two will forever be linked because of one game on April 15th, 1987, when Juan threw the only no-hitter in Brewers history. And Bill, you were behind home plate for that game, the battery of that game. One of the best games in Brewers history, and again, the only one to this date. So let's just set the scene. Juan, you were just 22 years old. You were coming off of your rookie season, and what we now know as Team Streak had already built an 8-0 record. So I want to start with both of you of just how much was that streak a part of the conversation internally and within that clubhouse, and as you're getting ready to take the mound to face the Baltimore Orioles at Memorial Stadium?
I'll let Bill, if he wants to start, whichever one you want to start, Bill.
It was one of those things where, you remember that day was kind of rainy and cold, and we weren't really sure if we were going to play, and it was one of those things. But that back then, in the middle of all that, I mean, there was so many people that had made big contributions. It wasn't just one or two guys. It wasn't just Paulie and Robin and guys like that. You had a lot of different contributors. BJ, Greg Brock had a big year. Dale Swaim got off to a great start, and we just kind of went to the ballpark, and I don't want to make this sound like it's arrogant or anything, but we kind of felt like we couldn't lose. I mean, even when we were down in games, we felt like there was somebody that was going to step up, whether it be a pitcher, somebody in a bullpen, or maybe your 8 or 9 hitter going to get a big hit. I say that because I was 8 or 9 back in those days. So, yeah, the 8 or 9 hitter would come up with a big hit and win a game. But it was just a mentality, and we kind of felt like we had a lot of confidence going. We kind of knew it wasn't going to last forever. We kind of rode the wave to 13-0. But if you recall, at the All-Star break, we kind of scuffled a little bit in May, but at the All-Star break, we were around 500, if you recall, and then took off again in September. But everybody contributed. Everybody that nobody really anticipated contributing going into the season. Everybody had their best year that season, and it really started with that early streak.
Juan, what about for you, taking the mound and being the guy to continue the winning streak?
I've had that question asked to me several times. I think the most fun part about all this, like Rock said, about people being able to contribute that way was that everybody was able to contribute in some form, shape, or form. It was either Rob Deere or, here comes Teddy and pitches a great game. Tim Leary has a great start. People get base hits with 2 outs, situational hitting. I mean, there's a lot of things that happen. So everybody contributed, and even on the scuffles, that's when pretty much people didn't contribute as well. And that's part of winning and losing during the season, the course of the season. Great teams also lose 3 or 4 games in a row too. But yeah, I think that overall in that situation, I was, as a pitcher, as a young pitcher, especially second year in the big leagues, I'm surrounded with several, a lot of guys that have great experience in the big leagues. You're trying to contribute as much as possible and trying to adapt to it as a second year pitcher. And I think what Rock said was perfectly true. We started at 9:00. It was a rainy day. Cold in Baltimore, and I think that to an advantage, I caught him a little sleeping at times to a great lineup, a great veteran lineup, and I think with a no-hitter, I always give credit to all the great plays that were behind me, some bad pitches that were hit at people, and that's part of a no-hitter. I've been involved. I've been able to, as a coach, seeing perfect games of no-hitters myself, and you always, in the course of the game, you go, wait a second. There's a chance. There's a chance here that this history might happen. And and to be very honest, it's been a long time since the Brewers have, and nobody has ever thrown a no-hitter. There's some great pitchers gone through there. the Ceases and Bathis and the Greinke's and actually the guys that are there now. And I'm hoping that when it happens, that it happens in Milwaukee, so people actually have a chance to really see it, experience it, especially the great fans out there.
Yeah, and fans would be ready to see one at Miller Park certainly anytime soon. But Juan, after the game, you said you felt you had a mediocre fastball and an awful slider. So what do you remember about the stuff you had in Rock as you're calling the game?
33 years ago.
Hold on.
You know, some days, I believe starters overall, now that I've been coaching for quite several times, a lot longer than I played, there is about 5 or 6 or more than a handful of games that during the course of the season, you, for some reason, the sun and the moon and the stars line up and you wake up and you're rested and you do the right things. And for some reason, you're not traveling a lot early in the season. It could be later in the season. It could be the start of the second half. It could be you catch a team on the wrong day. But you have about 6 or 7 games that you have a little bit of extra. That velocity, or maybe whichever your strength is. It could be a slider, it could be a great curveball, it could be the changeup is a parachute changeup. The fastball has a little more carry. You feel like the ball is light in your hand for some reason, and I think it's not that I had a mediocre. I've always battled with delivery and strikes. I was funny because now I look at my delivery now compared to what I teach. And I say, my God, I could have done that. I could have done this to change the delivery and not be so strike-oriented. Because back in the day, you know, they tell you, hey, throw strikes. But you take away a lot of stuff sometimes, a lot of explosive movement in the zone. You take away your bread or breaking ball. So I think that's what happened in that game. And but like I said before, there were some great plays behind me. There was a lot of swinging going on from the opposing team, which are the veteran teams. One, they got caught in that. I think once I see the game more, they got caught in swinging the bat later on, earlier, and that was to our advantage. It was a really close game early throughout the game, almost to the 7th, 8th inning. So it was they were trying to catch up to the fact of let's swing early in case not get deeper in the count to get to that velocity up in the zone that it was so effective.
At what point did you feel like I could take this all the way? And Rock, as you're catching the game and calling the game for Juan, at what point did you think we can pull this off? We could get this done?
Well, I don't know if you ever really feel like, you know, we're going to throw a no-hitter against the Orioles. I mean, think about the team. You know, Terry Kennedy was on that team. He was catching. He had Ripken and Murray and those guys. I mean, trying to get through those guys 3 times without giving up a base hit, I mean, that's kind of one in a million shot. But one thing I do remember about that game and warming Juan up, you know, we used to go down there, the starting catcher would go down there in the bullpen and finish warming the pitcher up to see what a guy's got going into the game. And we'd catch the last maybe 10 or 15 pitches. And I recall, I think, Juan, you bounced every curveball to me on the bullpen. I'm thinking to myself, oh, boy, this could be a short outing here. Because if we're going to get by with just fastballs, this might be a rough one today. But you kind of got the curveball going as the game went on. And it was basically fastball, curveball, slider, whatever you want to call it. But you kind of got better as the game went on. And keep in mind, I mean, I've been on both ends of no-hitters. Not so much we never got no-hit in the big leagues, but, you know, there's just as much pressure on the team getting no-hit as guys go up there in the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning as pressure is on the pitcher and the catcher and the fielders, you know, in a no-hitter. So I think you had the advantage. You know, Juan, you're way ahead of your time in the launch angle era with the high fastball. You relied heavily on that pitch. And as you said, as the game went on and as the Orioles felt like we're getting no hit. I mean, at the point in the game, 7th, 8th, 9th inning, the game was pretty much locked down. I always say that I think a monkey could have called that. You had such a great fastball on a perfect night to have a great fastball because it was cold. No hitter really likes those conditions. Wet, you know, rainy, wind blowing, all those kind of things. But, you know, it was one of those things where you didn't pitch anything like you did in the bullpen before the game, and that was a good thing for that.
Yeah. That normally happens, right, Rock? Usually, I've been a coach, and I've seen some guys walking out of the bullpen saying, "Oh, yeah, great stuff," and there he goes, 4-inning outing with 6 runs. And I see Burley walk out of the bullpen telling Coop and I, "That's all I got," and there goes a perfect game. So it's
right. Yeah, you never. I mean, one thing does, bullpen and batting practice doesn't necessarily translate to the game. So yeah, you made that clear that night.
Yeah.
Juan, can you take me inside when you're in the dugout as the game is getting deeper and you still have that no-hitter going? What's going through your mind? Are the guys leaving you alone? What are your teammates saying, behaving? Can you take me through as the game is developing and kind of your thought process?
Well, once again, I have to emphasize the fact of a second-year guy in a very experienced team. Still trying to get myself in the door, and you're pretty much in survivor mode because you're a second-year pitcher, young, and if you don't recall, but the league, if you look back, the league itself, the game is getting so much younger now that 22 years old, you actually you should be in the big leagues by now. Because of the college, you're out of college and you probably spend 1 year in the minor leagues and boom, you're in the big leagues. The game was different. So you're still trying to cement yourself and trying to create a foundation of every game, every inning, every pitch you made. And I try to go back to it. Every pitch, every inning, the last thing I'm looking at is at the scoreboard. I'm thinking I had to get 3 outs to get my team back here. I want to be perfectly honest with you. When I really thought about the no-hitter was the last inning. I think the game was fairly close early. It was against Mike Flanagan. Rest in peace. Great pitcher too. I think we got to him in the 7th, I think, and we scored about six runs, maybe in the top of the 9th or top of the 8th. It was late. So all I'm thinking about is I got to get 3 outs, and you're always thinking about more the shutout than actually the no-hitter. But it came with blessings of a historic no-hitter. But that, I want to be honest with you. The last thing I was thinking about the no-hitter, I was thinking more about the shutout and staying as long as possible in that game. And like I said before, I think the benefits, like Rock said, the benefits of having a team that starts swing mode, that even though it's a veteran team, the pressure of them thinking, oh my God, we better get a hit before it's too late, and we were able to achieve a little bit of history for Milwaukee with my catcher Rock.
Hey, Wally, do you remember how many pitches you threw that game?
Can I tell you one thing? That's one thing people ask me all the time, and nowadays they even count warm-up pitches, but because of the how they protect pitching now so much, and you have to because it's how prices. I'm going to say 118. I'm going to say 118. 115.
You know why I asked that question? You remember Miller Park a few years ago? You were with the Marlins and Adam Conley.
Yeah.
116 pitches. He was pulled. What were you thinking about that one?
What would you have done?
Took you out then.
I know. I was thinking about the same thing. I saw Volquez. The same thing happened in Volquez in Miami, and he's pitching a no-hitter against Arizona. But that was like a 99 pitch no-hitter. I was like, I don't have to worry about it. But yeah, the Adam Conley game in Miller Park was something else, and we couldn't. Donnie, bless his soul, Donnie and I looking at each other. This guy's first year starter. Of course, he's on reliever with them. But yeah, I was thinking about guys' futures all the time.
Yep, you're right.
So you're right. It was a scoreless game. You could jump out to a 1-0 lead. You had on a couple runs in the 7th. You had on a couple runs in the 9th. Juan, you've got a 7-0 lead as you take that game into the 9th. And then for that final out, you have to face a Hall of Famer in Eddie Murray. Can you take me through that last at bat? And then, of course, what we all remember, that final catch by Robin Yount out in center field, and just that final at bat and the emotion of getting that final out, Juan.
Before I say that, I got to tell you, I got to make sure I bring this up. I remember Rock telling me a lot, going like this to me, going, come on. And it came in several times in the game. The most interesting thing about that last pitch to Eddie Murray, first pitch after a walk to Ripken in the bottom of the ninth with 2 outs. The most interesting thing about that is that I felt like Ripken was hitting like 740 at that time, early in the season. He was really hot, and Murray so he's a Hall of Famer in any event. But I thought Murray was taking less swings than Ripken in that game. They were not as quality as Ripken was on it. Just about everything. Ripken was a great hitter against left-handed pitching and right-handed pitching, obviously. But after the walk, I think the attack mode happened again, and it was a reset count. And let's go and attack Murray. It's a 7-0 game. Worst case scenario, it's a base hit, home run, 7-2. We still got the game. But nothing could happen more historic than having a Hall of Famer, probably one of the best players ever will play in Milwaukee's history. Great human being also, and a great teammate, even though I was there for a very short time with these guys. I'm sure Rock knows him a lot more. Had the privilege of watching him play. Robin Yount makes a great play. And it's funny, I still, to this day, I give the trivia that who is has been a two-time MVP, American League MVP in 2 different positions that were in the middle of the field. That doesn't happen very frequently.
No.
Usually he's a third baseman that becomes a first baseman, or a left fielder that becomes a first baseman. It doesn't happen. You only ever see a shortstop moving to center field and being an MVP.
Rock, how about for you? As you're calling that game, the bottom of the ninth, you've helped him navigate this game up until this point. You're just as invested in the game and in the outcome and getting him this no-hitter. What was your thought process behind home plate, and then your reaction to seeing that final out as well?
Now, when that ball was first hit, it looked like it was going right to Robin. I mean, right smack at him. And then, but remember, it was windy, it was raining. The ball kept tailing. Ripken was the first pitch after Juan walked Ripken on 4 pitches, and I don't blame him. I wouldn't want to lose a no-hitter on a 3-0 count or a 3-1 pitch. So, put him on first. It's not going to cost you the game. First pitch was a high fastball, a little bit up, and he didn't quite square it up. He got it down on the trademark just enough to keep it in the ballpark. You're talking about a game of inches. We're talking right with that was a game of, less than an inch. Because he hit it pretty good, but he got it down on the handle a little bit. And the ball just had to spin on it. It was tailing away. And I thought I was running out to Juan. I was kind of like taking steps toward Juan as soon as he hit it, because this ball's right at Robin. He doesn't even have to move. And all of a sudden it started slicing like one of my drives on a golf course. And all of a sudden I realized, this is going to be a nice catch. He keeps running, and then he dives and 2 hands the ball, and then the rest is history. But, you ask Robin if he had to dive, whether he had to dive or not. He says, I was not going to mess up a no-hitter on a ball that was going to go off the end of my glove. And he dove. So in my mind, he had to dive because that's the way a Hall of Famer plays it. So I couldn't be more excited. My dad drove down from New Jersey to see that game. And he was in the stands for that no-hitter. He was in the stands for a lot of my good games, a lot of my bad games. There are a lot more bad games than good. But I'll never forget, with 2 outs in the 9th inning, walked Cal Ripken Jr. I turned around, and there was not many people in the stands. And I turned around and looked at him, and I gave him the thumbs up. And, next pitch Juan throws, he got it just in on Murray enough to keep it in the ballpark. So never forget it. You can't ever take that away from us, Juan, no matter what.
No, they can't. No, they can't.
Our careers ended up being. we were part of a no-hitter, and that's something special.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. That was the only thing I regret, Sophia, and to this day is that I was never able to make a lot of money in the game because, of course, you got hurt and became a coach, and I was never able. A lot of guys are able to buy a Rolex for their catchers and stuff like that, but I know he was able to buy 5 of those.
Not too late.
Yeah. But one thing that Rock was always very supportive. Was tough when he had to be, and like the other catchers there, BJ and Charlie Moore, I remember them, and Rick Cerrone and Sundberg, and Ted Simmons. Those guys were very very instrumental in my short stint in the big leagues because, of course, injuries after that. But great memories and. Definitely couldn't have never landed in a better place than Milwaukee. Great people.
Yep, ditto. No kidding.